Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're going deep on something we've all struggled with. Fatigue.
Absolutely. It's universal, isn't it?
It really is. And we're using this fascinating article called The Four Culprits of Your Fatigue That Do Not Let You Enjoy Life.
Oh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's got me thinking. We're going to break down these four energy thieves, see how they connect, maybe even uncover some surprising solutions along the way.
I'm all ears.
So, culprit number one, mental fatigue. The article calls it saturation mental, which is essentially mental saturation.
Like our brains are overloaded.
Yeah, exactly. That feeling when your brain just hits its limit, can't process anything more.
It's like a computer crashing,
Yeah.
and it affects us in more ways than we realize.
Yeah.
Not just thinking clearly, but it can really impact our self-esteem, make us doubt ourselves.
Oh, I can see that. You're already tired, and then you start thinking, am I even capable?
Exactly. It impacts our focus, too, creating this vicious cycle. The article mentions decision fatigue as a major factor.
Decision fatigue.
Yeah, every decision we make, big or small, uses mental energy.
Oh,
And we're bombarded with choices constantly. What to wear, what to eat, how to respond to that email. It all adds up.
wow, I never thought of it that way. So it's not just the big stuff, it's the accumulation of all these little decisions.
Exactly. It depletes our mental reserves.
Yeah.
And then add in the constant information overload from technology.
Oh, yeah. That's got to play a role.
Huge role.
Yeah.
Our brains aren't meant to process this much information all the time. We're in this state of continuous partial attention, never fully focused on one thing. And that's exhausting.
So it's like our brains are constantly juggling, never getting a break.
Exactly. So decision fatigue plus information overload equals mental exhaustion.
Makes sense. But how do we escape it? We can't exactly shut off the world, right?
True, but we can be more mindful about how we engage with it. The article suggests limiting the number of decisions we make each day.
Oh, interesting. How do you even do that?
Well, simple things like planning your meals for the week or having a capsule wardrobe so you don't spend so much time deciding what to wear.
Okay, that makes sense. I've also heard taking short breaks throughout the day helps. Just disconnecting for a few minutes.
Those micro breaks are crucial. Let your mind reset and recharge.
Yeah,
And of course, good sleep is essential.
can't argue with that.
It's when our brains process information, consolidate memories, essentially hit the refresh button. 7-8 hours can make a huge difference.
I'm already feeling the need for a nap. But before we doze off, let's move on to the second culprit. Emotional fatigue. This is where that heavy backpack analogy really hits home.
Ah, yes. Carrying all that unprocessed emotion.
It's like we're lugging around all this baggage and it's weighing us down.
Exactly. And we all experience difficult emotions. Sadness, anxiety, anger. But if we suppress them, they don't just disappear.
They fester.
They do. They build up, and that creates this heavy emotional load, and it shows up in different ways.
You mean not just feeling sad or down?
Right. It can be irritability, trouble concentrating, sudden tears, even anger outbursts.
Oh, wow. So snapping at someone over nothing could be a sign of this?
It's definitely possible. And emotional fatigue is often linked to chronic stress.
Makes sense. When you're constantly stressed, you're bound to feel emotionally drained.
Exactly. Our bodies are constantly releasing stress hormones, and eventually it leads to burnout.
So how do we deal with this emotional baggage? Is it about just toughening up? Toughening up, I don't think that really solves anything, does it? It's like ignoring a problem and hoping it'll just go away.
You hit the nail on the head. It's not about suppressing these emotions. It's about learning to process them. Healthily, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where finding a safe space for emotional release comes in.
A safe space. So, like, what does that even look like?
Well, it can be a lot of things. It depends on the person. It could be a physical space,
Hmm.
like a quiet corner where you can journal or meditate,
Yeah, I get that.
or maybe talking to someone you trust,
Mm.
a friend, a therapist.
Mhm.
It's about finding what works for you, a space where you can just let it all out without judgment.
So not bottling it up,
Exactly. Acknowledging those feelings, allowing yourself to experience them fully,
even the tough ones, huh?
especially the tough ones. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a few deep breaths and saying, okay, I feel this, and that's okay.
That's a good reminder. Sometimes we forget to just allow ourselves to feel. Okay, so we've covered mental and emotional fatigue. What about the physical stuff?
Ah, yes. Physical fatigue.
Yeah.
It seems straightforward, but the article brought up a point I hadn't really considered.
Oh, what's that?
It's not always about pushing ourselves too hard. Sometimes it's about not giving our bodies what they need.
You mean like rest?
Exactly. We often associate physical fatigue with overexertion, but lack of rest especially sleep, that's a major culprit.
Yeah, I know that feeling. One bad night's sleep and I'm dragging all day.
It's like running on empty, right? And here's the interesting part. All three of these fatigue types, they're connected.
They are.
Oh, yeah. Mental and emotional strain can mess with our sleep, which then makes the physical fatigue worse. It's a cycle.
A vicious cycle, yeah.
Exactly. So it's not just about hitting the gym. Rest and recovery are just as important.
So sleep really is the magic pill everyone says it is.
It's pretty close. It's when our bodies repair, recharge, rebuild. 7, 8 hours. Prioritize it.
Okay, noted. So mental, emotional, physical,
Mm-hmm.
all connected. What about the fourth culprit? The article called it fatiga spiritual, right?
That's right. And this one is a bit more, well, it goes beyond just the physical, mental, emotional stuff.
Like a deeper kind of tiredness.
Exactly. It's this sense of emptiness, lack of motivation, purpose,
Yeah.
almost like a weariness of the soul.
Whoa, that's heavy.
It is. It's like losing your spark, that inner drive that keeps you going.
So it's not just being tired, it's feeling lost. Like, what's the point?
You got it. And it can be really dangerous. Lead to inertia, feeling helpless, like your efforts don't matter.
Wow, that's bleak.
It can be. And it often hits after prolonged periods of stress, burnout, or difficult life events.
So you're already dealing with the other three types of fatigue, and then this one comes along, like a final blow.
Sometimes it can feel that way, but there's a silver lining. The article suggests a surprising solution, and it has to do with facing our fears.
Facing our fears.
Yeah. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But think about it. Those things we avoid, they take up a lot of energy.
Oh, I see what you mean, like the constant worry and anxiety.
Exactly. It's draining.
Mm.
But if we confront them, we free up that energy.
So facing those fears is actually liberating.
In a way, yes. It's like decluttering your mind and emotions.
Makes sense. But I gotta ask, where do you even start with that? Do you just jump right into the scariest thing on your list?
Not necessarily. The article suggests starting small. Find a fear that feels manageable.
Like baby steps.
Exactly. Maybe it's a task you've been putting off or a conversation you've been avoiding.
Okay, so build up that courage muscle. I get it.
Exactly. And with each small victory, you gain more confidence to face the next one.
What if you don't even know what you're afraid of? Sometimes it's just this like vague feeling of anxiety.
Yeah, that's where self-reflection comes in. Taking time to explore those feelings, dig a little deeper.
Like asking yourself, what am I avoiding? What am I running from?
Exactly. And sometimes just becoming aware of those fears, understanding where they're coming from, that can be enough to lessen their hold on us.
Wow, so powerful. It's not just about taking action, it's about understanding the root of the problem.
And that connects to the idea of body awareness. The article had this funny anecdote about people being so disconnected from their bodies that they don't even realize they're hungry.
That's wild.
Right. But it shows how we often operate on autopilot, ignoring our body's signals.
Until it's too late and we're starving or exhausted.
Exactly. So just like we need to listen to our bodies about hunger and thirst, we need to pay attention to the signs of fatigue.
So being more in tune with what our bodies are telling us.
Yes. Are you mentally drained, emotionally overwhelmed, physically depleted? Recognizing those early signs is key.
So we can actually do something about it before we hit a wall.
Exactly. It's about making informed choices about how we manage our energy.
So not pushing through, but understanding what's causing the fatigue and adjusting accordingly.
You got it. And as you become more aware, you'll start to notice how these 4 types of fatigue, they all influence each other.
Like how stress can lead to emotional fatigue, which messes with your sleep, and then you're physically exhausted, and eventually you feel that spiritual emptiness.
Exactly. It's a complex web, but by understanding it, we can start to unravel it and create a more balanced life, a more energized life.
It's amazing, right? We've got this whole roadmap now for navigating fatigue.
It is. And we're not powerless. We can make choices that support our energy and well-being.
Right. It's not about blame. It's about understanding and taking action.
Exactly. And remember that powerful tool we talked about? Facing our fears?
Oh, yeah. That was a big one. Seemed counterintuitive at first, but...
The article made a good point. Confronting those things we avoid can be so freeing.
Like that saying, what you resist persists. We try to push our fears away, but they just get stronger.
Exactly. And all that avoidance, it drains us.
So how do we lighten that load? How do we actually start facing those fears?
Well, we talked about starting small, right?
Baby steps, I remember.
Find a fear that feels manageable, maybe a task you've been putting off, a conversation you're dreading.
Build up to the bigger stuff.
Exactly. And as you face those smaller fears, you might notice a shift.
Like a feeling of relief.
Exactly. A lightness, like a weight has been lifted. And that can be incredibly motivating.
It gives you the energy to tackle the next challenge.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, good point.
A friend, family member, therapist, having that support can make a huge difference.
Someone to talk things through with. It's like having a teammate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you start clearing out that mental and emotional clutter, space opens up
For what? What comes in?
for new things to emerge. More energy, more joy, more possibilities. And this brings us back to spiritual fatigue.
That emptiness we talked about.
Yeah. As we address the other types of fatigue, as we're more mindful, it creates fertile ground for our sense of purpose to grow.
Like tending a garden.
Beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
Weeding, nourishing, creating the right conditions.
So it's a process, right?
It is. Ups and downs. Be patient with yourself. Practice self-compassion. Keep coming back to those things that support your well-being.
Like building any new skill takes practice.
Exactly. And gradually, we shift from depletion to vitality. We reclaim our energy, our joy, our sense of purpose.
This has been, wow, eye-opening. We've covered so much. The 4 culprits of fatigue, how our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual sides, they're all connected. And that surprising power of facing our fears.
A lot to unpack.
It really is. But it feels empowering too, you know? So to all our deep divers out there, what resonated with you? What fears are you ready to face? Let us know. Share your thoughts, your experiences. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.